They say trust your family. I trusted mine for 12 years. Then my stepdaughter sent me a birthday gift that nearly destroyed my life. A custom engraved watch. Innocent looking. Thoughtful even. But when my coworker went pale examining it and said, "Take this to the police," everything changed. My name is Raymond Cooper. I'm 55 years old, and I work as a power plant operator at the Midwest Energy Facility just outside Dayton. It's not glamorous work, but it's skilled labor that pays well, around $95,000 a year after 28 years with the company. I monitor systems, maintain equipment, and make sure thousands of homes stay warm in the winter and cool in the summer. People don't think about power until it goes out. I make sure it doesn't. I live alone now, though the house still smells like Diane's vanilla candle sometimes. She moved out 3 weeks ago, took most of her things, left the furniture. We're not divorced yet, just separated. That's what she calls it anyway. I call it cowardice, but I keep that to myself. The package sat there while I got ready for work. I showered, dressed in my work uniform, made toast I didn't eat. Finally, I opened it. Inside was a watch. Nothing fancy at first glance. Stainless steel, dark face, leather band. Then I turned it over and saw the engraving on the back. To Ray for all the years. Nicole, for all the years. 12 years of polite distance. Of her calling me Ray instead of Dad. Of holidays where she showed up late and left early. And now this. I strapped the watch on. It fit perfectly. The weight felt good on my wrist, solid and real. I looked at myself in the hallway mirror. A middle-aged man in a power company uniform, wearing a gift from someone who'd never liked him much. The whole thing felt off, but I couldn't say why. At work, the morning passed like any other. I checked pressure gauges, logged readings, walked the turbine floor with the vibration meter. The plant runs 24 hours, and my shift is 6 to 2, 5 days a week. I've been doing it so long I could probably do it in my sleep. During my 10 o'clock break, I was in the break room with Dennis Cole and 2 other operators, Mike and Frank. We were talking about the Bengals when Dennis noticed the watch. "That's new," Dennis said, nodding at my wrist. Dennis is about my age, early 50s, worked in industrial security before joining the plant. Quiet guy, but he notices things. "Birthday gift," I said. "From my stepdaughter." "Nice," Mike said, not really looking. He was more interested in his phone. Dennis reached across the table. "Mind if I take a look?" I unstrapped it and handed it over. Dennis turned it slowly in his hands, studying it like he was reading a manual. He pressed a button on the side. Nothing happened. He held it up to the light, squinted at the edges. Then his face changed. Not dramatically, just a tightening around the eyes, a flatness in his expression. He set the watch down carefully on the table between us. "Ray," Dennis said, his voice low. "Where exactly did you get this?" "I told you," I said. "My stepdaughter Nicole sent it for my birthday." "When's your birthday?" "Yesterday. The 15th. Dennis picked up the watch again, this time holding it at an angle. "You too close." I almost laughed. Not even a little. "Then why would she send you something like this?" "Hell if I know," I said. "What?" Dennis set the watch down again and looked at me straight on. "Because I don't think this is just a watch." The break room suddenly felt smaller. Mike looked up from his phone. Frank stopped chewing his sandwich. "What do you mean?" I asked. Dennis tapped the side of the watch with his finger. "See this seam here? And the way the crown sits? This has been modified. I've seen equipment like this before, back when I worked security. Audio recording, maybe GPS. Could be both." My stomach went cold. "You're saying someone's listening to me?" "I'm saying you need to take this to the police," Dennis said. "Today. Don't wear it. Don't turn it on. Don't do anything with it until someone who knows what they're looking at can check it." I stared at the watch sitting there on the table. Small, harmless looking. A gift from my stepdaughter. Why would Nicole do something like that? I asked, though part of me already knew there was only one answer. Money. Control. Something I hadn't seen coming. Dennis shrugged. "That's for you to figure out. But if I'm right, whoever gave you this wants to know where you are and what you're saying. And people don't go to that kind of trouble unless they're planning something." I picked up the watch, felt its weight again. It didn't feel like a gift anymore. It felt like a mistake, like something I should have questioned from the start. "I'll take it in after my shift," I said. Dennis shook his head. "Take it in now, Ray. Trust me on this." I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 10:17 in the morning. I had 3.5 hours left on my shift. But Dennis wasn't the type to panic, wasn't the type to make things bigger than they were. I stood up, slipped the watch into my pocket. I'm going to talk to my supervisor. Good, Dennis said. And Ray? Don't tell anyone where you're going. Not your wife. Not your stepdaughter. No one. I nodded and walked out of the break room. My hands were steady, but my mind was racing. 12 years of distance. And now Nicole sends me a watch that might be bugged. That wasn't kindness. That was reconnaissance. And if Dennis was right, someone was listening to every word I said. The Dayton Police Department sat on 3rd Street, a gray building that looked like it had been built in the 70s and forgotten. I parked in the visitor lot and sat in my truck for a minute, the watch heavy in my jacket pocket. The temperature was dropping, clouds moving in from the west. Inside, the waiting area smelled like burnt coffee and floor cleaner. A receptionist behind bulletproof glass looked up when I approached. I need to speak with someone about a potential surveillance device, I said. She didn't blink. Have a seat. Someone will be with you. I sat in a plastic chair bolted to the floor and waited. 20 minutes passed. A detective finally emerged from a back hallway, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and graying hair pulled back tight. Mr. Cooper, she said. I'm Detective Lisa Hartman. Come with me. I followed her through a maze of cubicles to a small interview room. Gray walls, metal table, 2 chairs. She gestured for me to sit. So, Detective Hartman said, pulling out a notepad. Tell me what's going on. I set the watch on the table between us. My stepdaughter sent me this for my birthday. A coworker thinks it's been modified for surveillance. Hartman picked up the watch, turned it over, read the engraving. Your coworker have experience with this kind of thing? Worked industrial security for 15 years, I said. He knows what to look for. She nodded, pressed the button on the side of the watch. Nothing happened. She held it up to the light, squinted at the seams. Mind if I have our tech guys take a look? That's why I'm here. Give me a few minutes, Hartman said, standing up. She took the watch and left. I sat alone in that gray room for 40 minutes. No clock, no windows, just fluorescent lights humming overhead. I thought about Nicole, about why she'd do this. We'd never been close, but we'd never been enemies either. Just 2 people living in the same orbit, polite and distant. Hartman came back with a younger man, early 30s, carrying a laptop. He didn't introduce himself, just set the laptop on the table and opened it. Mr. Cooper, Hartman said, sitting down. Your coworker was right. The watch has been modified. My stomach dropped. Ow! The tech guy turned the laptop so I could see the screen. Audio recording capability, GPS tracking, remote activation. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. This isn't amateur work. Can you tell who's receiving the data? I asked. It's encrypted, he said. We need a warrant to trace it. And that takes time. But the device is active. It's been transmitting for approximately 36 hours. Since I opened the package. Since I put on my wrist. What do I do? I asked Hartman. She leaned back in her chair. First, you don't wear it. Second, you don't tell anyone you brought it here. Act normal. We need to figure out who's behind this before they know we're onto them. My stepdaughter sent it, I said. Isn't that enough? It's a starting point, Hartman said. But we need to understand the why. People don't go to this kind of trouble without a reason. Has anything changed recently? Money issues? Family conflicts? I thought about Diane moving out 3 weeks ago. About Nicole always asking about my retirement account, about the house, about my health. My wife and I separated recently, I said. And I've been talking about early retirement. Hartman wrote something in her notepad. How much are we talking about? Pension, savings, the house. Maybe $400,000 total. She nodded slowly. That's motive. Keep the watch somewhere safe. Don't destroy it. We'll need it as evidence. And Mr. Cooper? Watch your back. If someone's tracking you, they're planning something. I left the police station with an empty pocket and a full head. The drive back to work felt longer than it should have. Dennis was waiting for me in the parking lot. Well, Dennis asked. You were right, I said. It's bugged. Dennis didn't look surprised. What now? Now I figure out what Nicole's planning, I said. And I make sure she doesn't get away with it. I didn't go straight home after work. Instead, I drove to the park near Eastwood Lake, parked by the water, and sat there thinking. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the frozen grass. The watch was still at the police station, being held as evidence. My wrist felt naked without it. Detective Hartman had told me to act normal. But what was normal when your stepdaughter was spying on you? I pulled out my phone and called my son Justin. He answered on the 3rd ring, sounding distracted. Hey, Dad, Justin said. What's up? You busy? I asked. Just leaving work. What? I need to talk to you about something. Can we meet? There was a pause. Is everything okay? Not really, I said, but I'd rather talk in person. Give me 20 minutes, Justin said. I'll meet you at Rosie's Diner on Main. Justin was already there when I arrived, sitting in a booth near the back. He's 31 now, works as an electrician for a commercial contractor. Looks like me at that age, same dark hair, same build. We shook hands, and I slid into the seat across from him. So what's going on? Justin asked. I told him everything. The watch, the police, Nicole's sudden generosity. Justin listened without interrupting, his expression getting darker as I talked. That's messed up, Justin said when I finished. What's Nicole trying to do? I don't know yet, I said. But Detective Hartman thinks it's about money. Your stepmom Diane left 3 weeks ago, and Nicole knows I've been talking about early retirement. Justin leaned back, shaking his head. How much are we talking about? My pension, the house, savings. Maybe $400,000 total. Justin whistled low. That's worth spying for, I guess. What do you go to do? The police want me to act normal while they investigate. But I need you to know what's happening, just in case. In case what? In case something happens to me, I said. If Nicole's desperate enough to bug a watch, she might be planning something worse. Justin's face hardened. Dad, you think she'd actually hurt you? I don't know, I said honestly. But I'm not taking chances. I'm updating my will tomorrow, making sure you're the only beneficiary. And I'm keeping copies of everything with my lawyer. Good, Justin said. What about Diane? Does she know? Not yet, I said. And I'm not telling her. For all I know, she's in on it. You really think so? I thought about the last few months, about Diane's coldness, about how she'd started asking questions about my retirement account, about life insurance. Little things that hadn't seemed important at the time. Yeah, I said. I think so. Justin reached across the table and gripped my shoulder. Whatever you need, Dad. I'm here. That meant more than he knew. We finished our coffee and I drove home, the house dark and empty when I pulled into the driveway. Diane's car wasn't there. She'd been staying with her sister across town since the separation. Inside, I went straight to the bedroom and started going through Diane's things, the stuff she'd left behind. Mostly clothes, some books, a few boxes in the closet. In the bottom drawer of her nightstand, I found a folder. Inside were bank statements I'd never seen before. A separate account, opened 8 months ago. Deposits every month, small amounts. $500 here, $300 there. The current balance was $8,400. Where was this money coming from? My paycheck went into our joint account. I hadn't authorized any transfers. I took photos of every page with my phone, then put everything back exactly as I found it. Detective Hartman would want to see this. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked around the room Diane and I had shared for 12 years. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a crime scene. The next morning, I met with my lawyer, Ed Patterson, in his office on 5th Street. Ed's in his 60s, been practicing family law for 30 years. He knows everything there is to know about divorce, estates, and people trying to steal what isn't theirs. I showed him the photos of Diane's secret bank account. Where's this money coming from? Ed asked, studying his computer screen. That's what I need you to find out, I said. Can you trace the deposits? If they're coming from a legitimate source, yes. If it's cash deposits, that's harder. Ed made some notes. You want me to update your will? Everything goes to Justin, I said. Nothing to Diane, nothing to Nicole. And I want it ironclad. No loopholes. Done, Ed said. I'll have the paperwork ready by Friday. Anything else? Life insurance. I want to make sure Diane can't collect if something happens to me. Ed looked up from his notepad. Raymond, are you in danger? I don't know, I said honestly, but I'm not taking chances. Fair enough, Ed said. I'll file the changes today. I left Ed's office feeling slightly more in control. At least my assets were protected. But the question remained, what was Nicole planning? That afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. This time I answered. Hello. Dad, it's me. Justin's voice, tight with stress. We need to talk. Now. What's wrong? Not on the phone. Meet me at the construction site on Maple Street. I'm working there today. Come to the trailer. He hung up before I could ask questions. I drove to the site, a half-finished office building surrounded by chain-link fence. Justin's truck was parked near the trailer. I found him inside, sitting at a folding table with his head in his hands. What happened? I asked, closing the door. Justin looked up. His eyes were red. I did something stupid, Dad. Something really stupid. My stomach dropped. What did you do? Nicole called me last night, Justin said. After we talked to the diner. She asked if I'd seen you, if you seemed okay. I said, yeah, we'd had coffee. Then she started asking about your retirement, about the house, about whether you'd updated your will. And I told her, Justin said, his voice breaking. I told her you were updating your will, that you were leaving everything to me. I didn't realize. I sat down hard in the chair across from him. You told Nicole I was cutting her out. I didn't mean to, Justin said. She sounded concerned, like she was worried about you. I thought I was just, I don't know what I thought. Did you tell her about the watch? Justin shook his head quickly. No, I swear, I didn't mention that. But you told her about the will. Yeah, Justin said quietly. I'm sorry, Dad. I messed up. I sat there for a minute, trying to think. Nicole now knew I was onto something, that I was protecting my assets. That would force her hand, make her act faster than she'd planned. It's done, I said finally. We deal with it. But from now on, you don't talk to Nicole about anything. You don't answer her calls. You don't text her back. Nothing. Okay, Justin said. What are you going to do? I'm going to find out what she's planning, I said, before she has a chance to do it. 3 days after my conversation with Justin, Nicole called me. I was at work, checking turbine pressure in the control room when my phone buzzed. Ray, Nicole said when I answered. Her voice was sweet, concerned. How are you feeling? Fine, I said carefully. Why? Justin mentioned you seemed stressed. I just want to check in. So she knew we'd talked. Justin had warned me she called him twice more after that night at the construction site. He hadn't answered. I'm okay, I said. Work's busy, that's all. Are you sure? Nicole asked. Mom says you seem confused lately. Forgetting things. There it was. The setup. Diane hadn't talked to me in 3 weeks, but somehow she was reporting confusion. Your mom's mistaken, I said. I'm fine. Well, if you need anything, I'm here, Nicole said. Actually, I was thinking about coming to visit this weekend. Maybe we could have dinner, just the 3 of us. You, me, and Mom. I don't think that's a good idea, I said. Why not? Her voice had an edge now. We're family, Ray. Are we? I said. Because family doesn't usually spy on each other. Silence on the line. Then Nicole laughed, high and fake. Spy on you? Ray, what are you talking about? The watch, I said. Nice try, Nicole. But I know what you did. She hung up. I stood there in the control room, my hand shaking slightly. Dennis walked in and saw my face. What happened? Dennis asked. Nicole called, I said. She knows I'm onto her. What did she say? She's trying to paint me as confused, forgetful, setting up a narrative. Dennis nodded slowly. They're building a case, trying to get you declared incompetent so they can take control. That's what my lawyer thinks, I said. What's your next move? I'm going to visit Diane, I said. Time to confront her. That evening, I drove to Diane's sister's house on the east side of town. Diane's car was in the driveway. I knocked on the door. Diane answered, surprised to see me. Raymond, she said. What are you doing here? We need to talk, I said. Now. She glanced back into the house, then stepped outside, closing the door behind her. We stood on the porch in the cold. What's this about? Diane asked. It's about you and Nicole trying to steal my retirement, I said. It's about secret bank accounts and bug watches and lies about me being confused. Her face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do, I said. The police have the watch. They know it's been modified. And I found your bank statements, Diane. $8,000 you've been hiding. Where did that money come from? That's none of your business, she said. It is when you're planning to take everything I've worked for, I said. Did Nicole promise you half? Is that the deal? Diane's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. She said it would be easy, Diane said, her voice breaking. She said you'd never know, that we'd just redirect some of the retirement money, that you wouldn't even notice. I didn't know about the watch, I swear. But you knew about the plan, I said. She nodded, crying now. I'm sorry, Raymond. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said. You're my wife, Diane. Or you were. And you were going to rob me blind. I was scared, she said. Scared of being alone. Scared of not having enough money. Nicole said this was the only way. Nicole lied, I said. And you believed her because you wanted to. I turned and walked back to my truck. Diane called after me, but I didn't stop. I'd heard enough. The next morning, I met Detective Hartman at a coffee shop on Wayne Avenue. She had a manila folder on the table when I arrived. I traced the deposits in your wife's account, Hartman said after I sat down. They're coming from Nicole. She's been paying Diane $500 a month for the last 8 months. Paying her for what? Information, probably, Hartman said. Details about your routine, your health, your finances. Building a profile. Diane admitted last night that Nicole promised her money, I said. She knew about the plan. Hartman made a note. That's good. We can use that. But here's the bigger problem. She opened the folder and slid a document across the table. Nicole applied for emergency guardianship 3 days ago. She's claiming you're a danger to yourself due to cognitive decline. My stomach dropped. Based on what? Based on statements from your wife saying you've been confused, forgetting important things, getting lost. There's also a letter from a doctor I've never heard of, Dr. Alan Kramer, confirming early-stage dementia. I've never seen this doctor, I said. I know, Hartman said. I checked. Dr. Kramer lost his license 2 years ago for insurance fraud. He's working under the table now, signing whatever people pay him to sign. Can we stop the guardianship? We can fight it, Hartman said. But you'll need your own medical evaluation, something legitimate that proves you're competent. Can you get that done today? I'll make it happen, I said. Good. Because the hearing is scheduled for next week. If Nicole wins, she gets control of everything. Your finances, your healthcare decisions, your property. You become a ghost in your own life. I left the coffee shop and drove straight to my doctor's office. Dr. Mitchell had been my physician for 15 years. His receptionist squeezed me in between appointments. Raymond, Dr. Mitchell said when he came into the exam room. What's the emergency? I explained the situation. Dr. Mitchell listened, his expression darkening. This is medical fraud, he said. I'll do a full cognitive assessment right now, and I'll testify if needed. You're one of the sharpest patients I have. The assessment took 90 minutes. Memory tests, problem solving, coordination, everything. When it was done, Dr. Mitchell printed out the results. Perfect scores across the board, he said. I'll write a detailed report and send it to your lawyer today. No judge will believe you're incompetent after seeing this. Thank you, I said. That evening, Justin came over. I showed him everything, the police reports, the medical evaluation, the evidence against Nicole and Diane. What happens now? Justin asked. Now we go to court, I said, and we make sure Nicole doesn't get away with this. What about Mom? I looked at my son. Your stepmom chose her side. She'll have to live with the consequences. Justin nodded. I'm with you, Dad. Whatever it takes. The guardianship hearing was held at the Montgomery County Courthouse on a gray Thursday morning. I arrived early with Justin and my lawyer Ed Patterson. We sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, watching people come and go. Nicole arrived 20 minutes later with her lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. She didn't look at me, just walked past with her head high. Diane came in behind her, looking small and scared. She glanced my way once, then looked away quickly. Detective Hartman showed up 5 minutes before the hearing, carrying a briefcase full of evidence. Everything's ready, Hartman said quietly. Dr. Mitchell's report, the police findings, the financial records. Nicole's not walking out of here with guardianship. What about criminal charges? I asked. That comes after, Hartman said. First we stop the guardianship. Then we build the fraud case. The bailiff called us into the courtroom. Judge Ellen Bradford presided, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. We all took our seats. Nicole's lawyer went first. His name was Richard Clemens, and he spoke in smooth, practiced tones. Your Honor, Clemens said, standing. My client Nicole Baker is seeking emergency guardianship of her stepfather, Raymond Cooper, due to his rapidly declining mental state. Mr. Cooper has exhibited signs of confusion, memory loss, and poor judgment. His wife of 12 years, Diane Cooper, has witnessed this decline firsthand. Clemens called Diane to the stand. She looked terrified, hands shaking as she was sworn in. Mrs. Cooper, Clemens said, can you describe your husband's behavior over the past few months? Diane's voice was barely audible. He's been forgetting things. Important things like paying bills, taking medication. He gets confused about dates, about conversations we've had. Has this affected his ability to care for himself? Yes, Diane said, not meeting my eyes. I'm worried about him. It was all lies, and she knew it. But she was saying what Nicole had coached her to say. Ed Patterson stood when it was his turn to cross-examine. Mrs. Cooper, Ed said calmly, you've been separated from your husband for 3 weeks now, correct? Yes. And during that separation, have you witnessed any of this alleged confusion firsthand? Diane hesitated. Well, no, but... So, your testimony is based on observations from before the separation? Yes. Yet, during your marriage, you never sought medical help for your husband, never took him to a doctor, never expressed these concerns to his employer, his family, or his friends. Why is that? Diane looked at Nicole's lawyer, desperate. I didn't think it was that serious at first. Or perhaps, Ed said, there was nothing to report because your husband is perfectly healthy. Clemens objected, but Judge Bradford waved him down. I'll allow it, the judge said. Continue, Mr. Patterson. Ed presented Dr. Mitchell's evaluation next. The doctor took the stand and explained in detail how he'd tested me for cognitive function, memory, problem solving. Every test came back perfect. In my professional opinion, Dr. Mitchell said, Raymond Cooper shows no signs of dementia, cognitive decline, or any mental impairment whatsoever. He's as sharp as any patient I've seen. Then Detective Hartman took the stand. She explained about the watch, about the modifications, about how Nicole had been surveilling me for weeks. We also discovered, Hartman said, that Mrs. Diane Cooper has been receiving monthly payments from Ms. Baker. $500 a month for 8 months, totaling $4,000. The courtroom went silent. Judge Bradford looked at Nicole, then at Diane. These payments, the judge said. What were they for? We believe they were payments for information, Hartman said, and for Mrs. Cooper's cooperation in making false statements about her husband's mental state. Clemens tried to object, tried to redirect, but the damage was done. Judge Bradford called a recess and disappeared into her chambers. When she came back 30 minutes later, her expression was cold. I've reviewed all the evidence, Judge Bradford said, and I find no medical basis for guardianship. Mr. Cooper's cognitive evaluation is excellent, and the testimony from his wife appears to be compromised by financial incentive. The petition for guardianship is denied. Nicole stood up, face flushed. Your Honor, you don't understand. Sit down, Ms. Baker, the judge said sharply. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of potential fraud. This hearing is concluded. The gavel came down. It was over. After the hearing, I stood outside the courthouse with Justin, watching Nicole and Diane leave through a side entrance. Nicole was on her phone, arguing with someone. Diane just looked broken. It's done, Justin said. She can't touch you now. Not yet, I said. But Detective Hartman said there's more. Criminal charges take time. Justin was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Dad, I need to tell you something. About why I really told Nicole about your will that night. I looked at him. What do you mean? I didn't just slip up, Justin said, his voice thick. Nicole knew exactly what to say to me. She knew I had gambling debts. My stomach dropped. Gambling debts. I owe some people money, Justin said. Bad people. $60,000 from poker games that went wrong. Nicole found out somehow. She called me 2 months ago and said she could make it go away. In exchange for what? For information about you, Justin said. For helping her build the case that you were losing it mentally. She said if I helped her get guardianship, she'd pay off my debt and give me $50,000 on top of it. I felt like I'd been hit in the chest. You were working with her? At first, yeah, Justin said, tears in his eyes now. I was desperate, Dad. These guys threatened to hurt me, to hurt Jessica. I didn't know what else to do. Jessica was Justin's girlfriend, a nurse at Miami Valley Hospital. They'd been together 2 years. But then, Justin continued, when you told me about the watch, when I saw what Nicole was really doing, I couldn't go through with it. That's why I told her about the will. Not to help her, but because I knew it would make her panic, make her move too fast. I knew if she rushed, she'd make mistakes. You set her up, I said slowly. I tried to, Justin said. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I should have come to you from the start. I stood there looking at my son, this man I'd raised, watching him fall apart in front of me. Part of me wanted to rage at him, to ask how he could betray me like that. But another part understood. Desperation makes people do terrible things. How much do you still owe? I asked. All of it, Justin said. I haven't paid anything. The deadline's in 2 weeks. Who are these people? Bookies in Cincinnati. They run games out of a bar and over the Rhine. I got in too deep. I took a deep breath. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to pay your debt. Once. Just once. But you're going to get help for the gambling. Therapy, meetings, whatever it takes. And you're going to stay away from those games forever. Dad, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I said. I'm telling you. You're my son. I'm not letting some criminals hurt you. But this is the last time, Justin. If you gamble again, if you get into debt again, you're on your own. Understood. Justin nodded, crying openly now. I understand. Thank you. And you're going to testify against Nicole if the DA asks, I said. Everything she told you, everything she promised, you're going to tell the truth. I will, Justin said. I promise. We stood there in the courthouse parking lot, cold wind blowing around us. My son had betrayed me, then tried to make it right. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was understanding. Family's complicated that way. Come on, I said. Let's go home. 2 weeks after the guardianship hearing, Detective Hartman called me at work. We're moving today, she said. DA's office has enough for criminal charges. Nicole Baker and Diane Cooper will be arrested this afternoon for conspiracy to commit fraud and elder abuse. What about Dr. Kramer? I asked. Already in custody, Hartman said. He gave up Nicole in exchange for a reduced sentence. Turns out she paid him $10,000 to sign that evaluation without ever examining you. I sat down at my desk, the weight of it settling over me. It was really happening. Will they go to prison? If convicted, yeah, Hartman said. Nicole's looking at 5 to 7 years for fraud and conspiracy. Diane might get less if she cooperates, but she's still looking at time. That evening, I watched the news with Justin at my house. The arrests made the local broadcast. Nicole being led out of her apartment in handcuffs. Diane crying as officers walked her to a police car. It felt surreal, watching people I'd lived with become criminals on TV. How do you feel? Justin asked. Empty. I said honestly. I thought I'd feel vindicated, but I just feel tired. You did the right thing, Dad. Did I? I looked at my son. Your stepmom's going to prison. Nicole's life is destroyed. Was all this worth it? They tried to steal your life, Justin said firmly. They bugged you, lied about you, tried to have you declared incompetent. You protected yourself. That's not wrong. He was right, but it didn't make it easier. The trial took 4 months to prepare. I testified, sitting in that witness box, describing how Nicole had sent me the watch, how Diane had lied about my mental state. Justin testified about Nicole's attempts to recruit him, about the money she'd promised. Detective Hartman presented the evidence, the modified watch, the financial records, Dr. Kramer's confession. Nicole's defense tried to paint me as paranoid, as a bitter ex-husband making up stories. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Nicole got 6 years in state prison. Diane got 3 years with the possibility of parole after 18 months. Dr. Kramer got 2 years and lost his medical credentials permanently. I sat in the courtroom when the sentences were read, watching Nicole's face as the judge spoke. She didn't cry, didn't show any emotion, just stared straight ahead like she couldn't believe this was happening to her. Diane cried. She looked at me once across the courtroom, mouthing, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Some things you can't fix with apologies. After the sentencing, I walked out into the bright Ohio sunshine. Justin was waiting by his truck. "It's done," he said. "Yeah," I said. "It's done. What now?" I thought about that question. What now? I was 55 years old, still working at the power plant, still living in the same house. But everything was different. I was single, my stepdaughter was in prison, my ex-wife was a convicted felon. Family wasn't what it used to be. Now I figure out what's next, I said. Justin paid off his gambling debt with money I loaned him. He's in therapy now, hasn't touched a poker game in months. We have dinner every Thursday, just the two of us. He's trying to rebuild trust, and I'm trying to let him. The house feels quieter without Diane, but it's a good quiet. Clean, honest. I can breathe here now. I still work at the plant, but I'm planning to retire next year for real this time. Ed Patterson helped me set up a trust for my assets. Everything protected and locked down tight. Nobody's taking what I've earned ever again. Sometimes I think about Nicole sitting in her cell, about Diane trying to survive prison. Part of me feels guilty. But then I remember the watch, remember them laughing about how easy it would be to take everything from me. The guilt fades. 8 months after the trial, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went on a date. Her name was Carol, a nurse at St. Anne's Hospital where I'd done maintenance work. We'd known each other professionally for years. Always friendly, but never more than that. She'd heard about the trial, about what happened. When she asked if I wanted to get coffee, I surprised myself by saying yes. We met at a small cafe on Brown Street. Carol was 52, divorced with 2 grown kids. Straightforward. No nonsense. The kind of woman who said what she meant. So, Carol said after we'd ordered, "How are you really doing?" "Honestly," I said, "I don't know. Some days I'm fine. Other days I wonder if I should have seen it coming." "Nobody sees that kind of betrayal coming," Carol said. "That's what makes it betrayal." We talked for 2 hours. About her divorce, about my trial, about how hard it is to trust people after you've been burned. It wasn't romantic, not yet. Just 2 people who'd been through things, finding comfort in honesty. We've been seeing each other for 3 months now. Nothing serious, no rush. Just coffee, dinners, movies. She makes me laugh, which I'd forgotten how to do. I make her feel safe, which she said she hadn't felt in years. Justin likes her. That matters more than I thought it would. At work, things return to normal. Dennis still checks on me every morning, asks if I'm okay. Bob apologized for taking money from Nicole. I told him we all make mistakes, but it took me a while to trust him again. The power plant hums along like it always has. Boilers run, turbines spin, electricity flows to thousands of homes. My job hasn't changed, but I have. I'm more careful now. I check my mail, my accounts, my surroundings. The watch sits in an evidence locker somewhere, but I can still feel its weight on my wrist sometimes. A reminder that danger doesn't always announce itself. People ask if I'm angry. The answer is complicated. I'm angry at what Nicole and Diane try to do, angry at how close they came to succeeding. But I'm also grateful, in a strange way. Grateful that I found out before it was too late. Grateful for Dennis noticing something wrong. Grateful that I had the strength to fight back. I talked to my mom's lawyer about the trust fund I'd inherited, the one Nicole had been racing to get before it activated. It came through last month, $1.2 million sitting in an account with my name on it. Blood money, in a way. My mother worked her whole life to build that nest egg, and her granddaughter tried to steal it. I set up a scholarship fund at the local community college in my mother's name. Half the money went there, helping kids who couldn't afford school. The rest I split between Justin and a fund for myself. Real retirement this time, not the fantasy Nicole had been planning to steal. Last week, I drove past Diane's sister's house, the one where Diane used to stay during our separation. It's for sale now, empty windows and an overgrown lawn. The sister moved away after the trial, too ashamed to stay in Dayton. I don't blame her. It's hard to be connected to that kind of scandal. I don't think about Nicole much anymore. She's 3 years in her sentence, eligible for parole and 3 more. I hope she's learned something, but I doubt it. People like her don't change. They just get better at hiding. Diane writes me sometimes. Letters from prison, always the same. "I'm sorry. I was weak. I was scared. I made a terrible mistake." I don't write back. What would I say? That I forgive her? I don't. That I understand? I don't want to. Some wounds don't heal. They just become part of who you are. But I'm okay with that now. I'm 56 years old, and I've learned that survival isn't about avoiding pain. It's about standing up after you've been knocked down, dusting yourself off, and refusing to let the people who hurt you define your future. I still live in the same house in Dayton, still drive the same truck, still work at the same plant. But everything feels different now. Lighter. Like a weight I didn't know I was carrying finally lifted. Justin asked me last week if I'd ever trust anyone again. I told him I already do. I trust him, despite everything. I trust Carol, cautiously but genuinely. I trust Dennis and Dr. Mitchell and Detective Hartman. Trust isn't about never getting hurt. It's about choosing who deserves the risk. Life moves forward. That's what it does. The sun rises over Eastwood Lake. Winter turns to spring. The power plant keeps running. And I keep going too, one day at a time, building something new from the wreckage of what was. That's not revenge. That's not even justice, really. It's just life, honest and hard and worth living.